Ever wonder how quickly a peaceful home can turn into a battlefield? Stick around because what happened in my kitchen that night flipped my entire world upside down. And before we go deeper, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. My name is Margaret Walters. I'm 62, and if you had asked me a week ago, I would have said I was living a quiet, comfortable retirement. I spent my mornings tending my garden, my afternoons reading on the porch, my evenings chatting with neighbors who'd known me for decades. Everything was steady, predictable, even until my son and his wife moved back in. 6 months ago, my son Daniel showed up at my door with his wife, Jenna, and 2 suitcases. They'd lost their apartment after a string of bad financial decisions, though Daniel couched it more gently, just until we get settled again. Mom, a few weeks at most. Weeks, of course, stretched into months. And while I didn't mind helping them, I quickly discovered that Jenna had a talent for turning even small inconveniences into personal insults. The argument that night didn't start with anything dramatic. It began with a set of mixing bowls. Jenna had reorganized my entire kitchen, again without telling me. Pots where the plates used to be, spices in drawers instead of the rack, canned goods stacked where I kept my baking supplies. When I gently asked if she could leave things where I was used to them, she reacted like I'd accused her of vandalism. Double quotes. "Oh, here we go," she snapped, dropping a handful of silverware into the sink so loudly I thought something cracked. "You never appreciate anything I do around here. Everything has to be your way." "I just want to be able to find my things," I said softly. "I've used this kitchen for 40 years. "And that's the problem," she said, her voice rising. "You're stuck in your old ways. No wonder Daniel's dad couldn't stand living here. A low blow and an inaccurate one. My husband passed away 5 years ago. And Daniel's wife had always twisted the truth to make her comments sting more. "Jenna," I said quietly, "that's unfair. Unfair." She laughed bitterly. "You hover over this house like some museum guard. Touch this, don't move that, don't put this here, I'm suffocating." Daniel finally wandered in from the living room. Instead of diffusing the fight, he sighed dramatically, rubbing his temples. "Mom, you do get pretty particular about things," he said, not looking at me. "Maybe you could ease up a bit." It felt like a betrayal, small but sharp. Then Jenna stepped closer. "Too close, honestly," she said, her face twisted with frustration. "I'm done tiptoeing around your precious little routines. Do you want to know what I really think?" Before I could respond, she spit right in my face. The shock froze me in place. The warm smear slid down my cheek, and for a moment, I didn't even breathe. In all my years through hardships, loss, raising a child alone, no one had ever degraded me like that. I turned to my son, expecting outrage, anger, something, anything. Instead, he shrugged. Actually shrugged. "Well, Mom, you kind of bring this stuff on yourself," he muttered. "Jenna feels like you don't want her here." That hurt more than the spit. I wiped my face with a kitchen towel, set it down slowly, and walked upstairs without another word. My legs felt wooden, my vision unfocused. When I locked my bedroom door, the silence pressed in around me. 40 years in that house. 40 years building a life with the man I loved, raising my son, sacrificing so he could have more than I did. And now, my son, my own flesh and blood, was defending someone who had spit on me. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time. The humiliation simmered, then cooled, then sharpened into something else entirely. Resolve by the time the sun rose the next morning. I knew exactly what I was going to do. Asterisk, I woke before dawn the next morning. Long before the 2 adults who had treated me like an unwelcome guest in my own home. My hands moved on their own in the kitchen, mixing batter, slicing fruit, laying strips of bacon on the pan. Vanilla, cinnamon, maple syrup. Soon the whole house smelled like the best Saturday morning of Daniel's childhood. Asterisk. But this breakfast wasn't an act of kindness. It was strategy, asterisk. By the time the clock struck 7, the dining table looked like a hotel buffet. Stacks of pancakes, scrambled eggs, crispy bacon, fresh berries, even a pitcher of squeezed orange juice. I sat at the head of the table, sipping coffee calmly, waiting. Asterisk, right on cue, I heard footsteps. Daniel came down first, still groggy. But his expression brightened when he saw the spread. Asterisk, well, he said, stretching lazily. Looks like someone finally figured out her role around here. Asterisk, the comment landed like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I simply smiled into my coffee. Asterisk, Jenna followed behind him, rubbing her eyes. She stumbled to a stop when she saw the feast, then stopped again when her gaze landed on the man sitting beside me. Asterisk. He wore a navy suit so sharply pressed it could cut glass. His briefcase lay open, papers stacked neatly inside. He was eating a pancake like he'd been invited a week ago. Daniel blinked, confusion replacing his smug grin. Mom. Who is this? Asterisk, I gestured with calm politeness. Daniel, Jenna, this is Mr. Trevor Harrison. He's an attorney. Asterisk, the mug slipped out of Jenna's hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. No one moved to clean it up. Asterisk, Trevor stood, shook their hands with a polite smile that definitely wasn't friendly, and said, I've heard a great deal about both of you. The tone suggested none of it was praise. Jenna swallowed hard. A lawyer. Why? Why do you need a lawyer? Asterisk. Well, I said, buttering my toast as if discussing a weather report. After last night's incident, I thought it was wise to reevaluate a few things. Trevor specializes in elder protection. Asterisk, Daniel's eyebrows shot up. Elder protection. Mom, that's extreme. Asterisk, Trevor opened a folder. Actually, what your mother described to me qualifies as elder assault. Spitting on someone, especially a senior citizen, is considered battery under the law. Jenna's face drained of all color. It wasn't like that, she stammered. It was an argument. Asterisk, bodily fluids count as assault, Trevor said matter-of-factly, tapping the document with his pen. But don't worry, we're not here to talk about criminal charges. Yet Daniel swallowed so loudly it was almost comical. What are we here to talk about? He asked quietly. My estate, I replied. Trevor lifted a stack of documents. Your mother's will currently names both of you as primary beneficiaries of the home, her savings, and the insurance policies a total estate of about 1.2 million. Asterisk, or rather, had named them. Asterisk, Jenna flinched at the word had. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Asterisk, given the abuse and financial strain your mother has endured, Trevor continued. She's considering significant changes. Asterisk, what changes? Jenna's voice cracked. Asterisk, well, I said brightly, I've always loved the local animal shelter, and the community college has a scholarship fund that could do a lot of good. Asterisk, Daniel's composure broke. Mom, this is insane. All over one fight. Asterisk, one fight. I echoed softly. Daniel, you stood by while your wife spit in my face. Then you told me I deserved it. If that doesn't make me rethink my future, nothing will. Asterisk, Jenna suddenly leaned forward, voice small. Margaret, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I was stressed and upset, and asterisk, of course you were, I said gently. But apologies don't erase consequences. A long pause settled over the room like heavy fog. Trevor cleared his throat. That brings us to the final matter. Housing. Asterisk, Daniel straightened. Housing. What about it? Asterisk, I've decided. I said calmly, slicing into my French toast, that the two of you will be moving out. Asterisk, Daniel stood so fast his chair skidded. We can't afford to move out. You know, we're struggling. Asterisk, I know exactly how much you're struggling, I replied. And I also know how much I've allowed myself to be disrespected because of it. Asterisk. Trevor folded his hands. Mrs. Walters will give you until the end of the week to vacate. After that, new locks will be installed. Asterisk, Jenna looked like she might collapse. You can't do this. Asterisk, oh, I said lightly, I absolutely can. And then, just as their panic peaked, I reached for an envelope resting beside my plate. There is, I added, One thing that might make me reconsider? Daniel's eyes flickered with hope. What? What is it? I slid the envelope across the table. Let's call it an opportunity. Daniel snatched the envelope with the urgency of a drowning man grabbing a lifeline. His fingers shook as he opened it. Pulling out the 3 glossy photographs I had slipped inside earlier that morning. Asterisk at first. He didn't understand what he was looking at. Boxes. Old cardboard boxes. Then recognition struck him like a blow. Asterisk, Mom. No, you didn't. Oh, I did, I replied, sipping my coffee. Jenna leaned over his shoulder, squinting. What are those? More estate papers. Asterisk, Daniel's voice was thin. These are my comic books. Asterisk, Jenna blinked. The worthless ones. I smiled. The ones he told you were worthless. The ones he begged me to put in the basement because he didn't want to drag junk around. Asterisk, Trevor raised an eyebrow. These appeared to be vintage issues. Asterisk, oh, they're vintage, all right, I said, including the crown jewel Amazing Fantasy number 15. Asterisk, Jenna frowned. What's that? Some big deal. Asterisk, Trevor nearly choked on his coffee. That's the first appearance of Spider-Man. In good condition, it can fetch tens of thousands. Asterisk, Daniel looked sick. Mom, please tell me you didn't asterisk. I slid my phone across the table. On the screen was an active auction page. Current bid, $8,000. Time remaining, 3 days, asterisk. Jenna gasped. 8,000. For a comic book. Asterisk, that's just the starting climb, Trevor added. If her photos match the condition I'm seeing, it could go past 20. Asterisk, Daniel buried his face in his hands. You're selling them? You're really selling them. Asterisk, sweetheart, I said gently. When you left them in my basement for half a year and insisted they had no value, you essentially abandoned them. Legally, they became mine. Asterisk, Trevor nodded. Abandoned property laws are quite clear. Asterisk, Jenna looked like her brain was trying to catch up. But if he didn't know they were valuable? Asterisk, that sounds like a personal oversight. Trevor said politely. Asterisk, Daniel looked up at me desperately. Mom, I've had those since I was a kid. Dad gave them to me. Asterisk, and you treated them like trash, I replied. But fortunately, I didn't. Asterisk, Jenna swallowed hard. Margaret, maybe we could come to some kind of arrangement? Maybe you could give them back if we help more around the house. Or pay a small storage fee. Asterisk, I laughed, not cruelly, but honestly. Oh, Jenna, this isn't about the comics. This is about accountability. Asterisk, Trevor leaned back. And financial boundaries, which seemed to have been blurred. Asterisk, Daniel took a shaky breath. Okay. What do we have to do? What will make you take the listing down? Asterisk, nothing, I answered, wiping my hands on a napkin. The auction stays. Asterisk, Daniel looked shattered. Jenna seemed ready to argue again, but Trevor held up a hand. Asterisk, Mrs. Walters mentioned she had an offer. Perhaps you should hear it before reacting further. Asterisk, I nodded and reached into a folder I'd tucked by my chair. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Asterisk this, I said, sliding it toward them. It's the only way you're remaining in this house. Asterisk, Jenna snatched it before Daniel could. Her eyes darted across the page, widening with every line. Asterisk, this is a contract. Asterisk, a behavior agreement, I corrected, to outline expectations going forward. Asterisk, Daniel read over her shoulder. Mandatory respect, contributing to utilities, attending counseling. Asterisk, family counseling, I clarified. Once a week. You want to stay here? We address the source of the disrespect. Asterisk, Jenna's voice rose. And what's this clause? No passive-aggressive comments. No raising voices. No sabotaging household routines. Asterisk, yes, I said. You both have a talent for chaos. Asterisk, Trevor interjected. This is a perfectly reasonable agreement. Boundaries protect everyone involved. Asterisk, Daniel took a long breath. So, if we sign this, we can stay. Asterisk, for 90 days, I said. Free of rent. After that, you move out permanently. Asterisk, Jenna's eyes narrowed. And if we don't sign? Asterisk, then you're out by Friday. Asterisk, Daniel looked at me helplessly. Mom, this seems extreme. Asterisk, what's extreme? I replied. Is your wife spitting on me? Now you may either sign or pack. Asterisk, Jenna stared at the paper, jaw tight. Daniel's hope flickered like a dying candle. Asterisk, finally. Jenna grabbed the pen from Trevor's briefcase. Asterisk, fine, she muttered. We'll play your little game. But her eyes told me everything. She was already planning to break the rules. Asterisk, it took only 11 days, not even 2 full weeks before Jenna made her first major attempt to test the boundaries of the agreement she had signed with such forced enthusiasm. Asterisk, honestly, I had expected 5 days at most. Asterisk, her initial missteps were subtle. A cereal bowl left in the sink accidentally, shoes kicked off in the hallway where she knew I walked every morning. Snide remarks barely whispered under her breath, just loud enough that she could deny them if confronted. All of it small enough to play innocent, but pointed enough that I knew exactly what she was doing. Asterisk. But I had learned long ago that people like Jenna don't explode immediately. They chip away. They poke, prod, push at invisible walls to see where they can slip through. And that's exactly why I documented everything. Asterisk, a photo of the mess she left in the kitchen. Asterisk, screenshots of her texts complaining about the old bat's stupid rules. Asterisk, audio recordings of phone calls where she ranted about my controlling energy. Asterisk, Trevor had encouraged me to gather evidence. Boundaries mean nothing unless they're enforceable, he'd said. And I took that to heart. Then came the moment everything snapped. It was a Tuesday morning when I noticed something off in my bedroom, a subtle change in the air. Like someone had shifted things just slightly. The jewelry box on my dresser was crooked. A drawer wasn't closed all the way. My paperwork, usually neatly stacked inside a folder, felt lighter than usual. Asterisk, at first, I questioned myself. Maybe I had been careless. Maybe I'd gotten sloppy the last time I organized. But the nagging feeling grew stronger. And when I walked into my office later that morning, the truth was impossible to ignore. My bank statements were scattered across my desk, not in a neat pile, not where I left them, spread out like someone had been rifling through them with intention. Asterisk, I called downstairs. Jenna, could you come up here for a moment? Asterisk, she appeared at my door. Wearing the sugary sweet expression she always used when she thought she could charm her way out of trouble. Asterisk, you wanted to see me? Asterisk, I gestured to the desk. Can you explain why my personal financial documents are spread out like this? Asterisk, immediately. Denial. What? I haven't been in here. Maybe you forgot where you put them. Asterisk there. It was her favorite tactic. Accusing me of forgetfulness. Of being old. Of misplacing things. Asterisk, I pulled out my phone and opened the photos from 2 days earlier, the ones where everything was organized and in place. I handed it to her silently, her face strained. So, I said calmly, unless someone broke in just to read about my savings account, I believe you've been going through my private papers. Asterisk, she cracked almost instantly. Fine, yes, I looked. You keep everything locked up like you're hiding gold bars. I just wanted to see what we're dealing with. Asterisk, Asterisk, you know our situation, she said defensively. Daniel's thinking about starting a landscaping business. We need to know what kind of resources we have access to. Asterisk, my voice cooled. Resources you have access to. Or resources I have. Asterisk, she dropped the act completely. If you can help us, why won't you? You're sitting on money while we're drowning. Asterisk. And so you decided to snoop through my private documents to find out how much of it you could squeeze from me. Asterisk, she gave a half shrug, half sneer. I needed to know. Asterisk. Well, I said, picking up my phone again, you'll be happy to hear that I recorded this whole conversation. Asterisk. Her jaw dropped. You recorded me? Asterisk. It's my house. And I record anything that affects my safety or my property. Asterisk. She looked like a cornered animal. Daniel will never let you kick me out over this. Asterisk. Daniel signed the exact same contract you did, I replied. And violating it means both of you are out immediately. She charged downstairs, screaming for him. When I followed, the scene unfolded exactly as I'd predicted, Jenna frantically insisting I was overreacting. Daniel caught between anger and fear, and me holding the contract like a judge delivering a sentence. Asterisk. Daniel begged her to apologize. She refused. Asterisk. Daniel threatened to leave her. She balked. Finally, when she realized that choosing pride meant choosing homelessness, she caved. Fine, she said through clenched teeth. I apologize. The words were hollow, forced, but she said them. David seemed relieved, but I wasn't. The contract remained intact. But something had shifted. A truth had crystallized. Jenna would break the agreement again. It was only a matter of when, not if, asterisk, and when she did. Would be ready. For the next few days, things in the house settled into an uneasy rhythm. Daniel spent his afternoons half-heartedly searching job boards, looking as though the mere idea of employment gave him a headache. Jenna moved around stiffly, avoiding eye contact, clearly waiting for a chance to poke another hole in the agreement she'd reluctantly signed asterisk. But the real shift came when we began going through my financial paperwork together. A task Jenna had assumed would reveal some vast treasure chest she could eventually pry open. It did not. I set 3 storage boxes on the office floor. We'll start with my tax returns, I said, handing Jenna a stack. 5 years should be enough. Asterisk. She sat down with a kind of grim determination, as though preparing to dig through clues to a mystery she was certain she would solve. Asterisk. An hour in, her posture had changed. Her confidence had evaporated. Asterisk. Margaret, she said slowly, these tax returns show you make about $40,000 a year. Asterisk. Correct? But the bank statements contain savings I've accumulated over time, I said. Some from my pension. Some from when I sold your father-in-law's small business after he passed. Asterisk. Daniel looked up from his laptop, surprised. Dad's business. I thought it barely made anything. Asterisk. Your father built relationships with dozens of small companies. When I sold the client list and the lease, I received a little over $200,000. Asterisk. Jenna flipped through the statements again. Then why did the balances keep going down? Asterisk. Because, I replied, when you're retired and your income is fixed, you slowly draw from savings. It doesn't last forever. Asterisk. Daniel swallowed. So how long will it last? Asterisk. At my current spending level. Around 12 years. Less if I need medical care or long-term support. Asterisk. The room fell quiet. Jenna's earlier greed began melting into something like shock. Asterisk. So, when you said you can't afford to support us, asterisk, I meant it. I said, literally. Asterisk. Jenna bit her lip, confused. But you have the house. It's worth over $1 million. If you sold it, asterisk, and go where? Ask. A comparable rental would cost me $3,000 a month. That would drain my savings in 4 years. Asterisk. Daniel closed his laptop. For the first time in months, he actually looked at me, really looked. Asterisk. I didn't know, he said quietly. I just assumed you had more? Asterisk. You assumed, I echoed. Without asking. Without considering. Without contributing. Asterisk. Jenna pointed to another folder. What about this account? The one with Harrison Financial. It shows dividends. Asterisk. My stomach tightened. That account. The one I hadn't expected her to notice. That's my emergency fund, I said. How much is in it? Asterisk. That is not relevant. Asterisk. Her eyes narrowed. It shows 3,000 in quarterly dividends. That suggests a pretty large principal. Asterisk, Daniel frowned. Mom, how much? Asterisk, I hesitated stupidly. That split-second pause was enough. About 400,000, I said finally. Both of them froze. Asterisk, 400? Daniel whispered, asterisk, Jenna leaned back slowly, her greed reawakening. So you do have money. A lot. Asterisk, no, I corrected firmly. I have savings that must last me potentially 20 more years. Asterisk, but still, she pressed. You're not broke. You're not even struggling? Asterisk, I am comfortable as long as I am cautious, I said. Big difference. Asterisk, before I could steer the conversation back to boundaries. My phone rang. A call from my real financial advisor. I excused myself, stepped into the hall and answered asterisk Mrs. Walters. The advisor said, We've discovered an asset from your father's estate that was never properly transferred to you. Asterisk, my heart skipped. An asset. Asterisk, a commercial property. The tenants have been paying rent into an escrow account for 15 years. The balance is over $700,000. I leaned against the wall, stunned. 700,000. Asterisk, and she continued. The tenants want to buy the building. The offer is 1.8 million. My grip tightened on the phone. Mrs. Walters, she said gently, this could secure your financial independence for life. Asterisk, when I returned to the office. Daniel and Jenna looked up EXPECTANTLY. Asterisk, everything okay? Daniel asked. I sat down slowly. I've just learned something, I said. Something? Significant? Asterisk, Jenna leaned forward. What? I looked at both of them carefully. I've come into a substantial inheritance. Their eyes sparkled with a kind of hope that makes a mother's stomach twist. And I knew instantly. This news would change everything, just not in the way they imagined. Asterisk, they stared at me like I just announced I could suddenly perform miracles. Daniel's eyes were wide with stunned excitement, and Jenna looked as though she'd swallowed an electric current. Asterisk, how much? Daniel asked, his voice strangled with anticipation. Asterisk, 700,000 in accumulated rent, I said calmly, and an offer of 1.8 million for the property itself. Asterisk, Jenna's hand flew to her mouth. That's more than $2 million. Asterisk, 2.5, I corrected. Before taxes. Asterisk. Daniel exhaled a shaky laugh. Mom, this is life-changing. For me, I replied. The distinction made Jenna's expression tighten. Asterisk, yes, of course, she said quickly. But it could help all of us, asterisk, could it? I asked. Or were you hoping it would help you? Jenna exchanged a glance with Daniel, silently urging him to intervene. Mom, he said, adopting the gentle tone he used whenever he wanted something from me. You don't have to worry anymore. You have more than enough for retirement now. You could help us get back on our feet. There it is, I muttered. What? He asked. Asterisk, the assumption that my money exists to solve your problems. Asterisk, Jenna leaned forward. You don't understand? This isn't just good luck. It's an opportunity for the family. Asterisk, the family. I raised an eyebrow. Tell me, Jenna, what exactly have you contributed to this family since you moved in? Asterisk, she bristled. I've helped around the house. Asterisk, you've rearranged my home, complained about every rule, insulted me, and rifled through my belongings. I said, that's not help. Asterisk, Daniel's patience cracked. Mom, come on. You can spare some money, just enough to get us stable. Asterisk, why should I? I asked. Asterisk, because we're your family. Asterisk, and for 6 months, I said evenly, you treated me like your personal safety net, not like family. Asterisk, Jenna tried again. What if we made it official? You could invest in Daniel's landscaping company. We'll pay you back. Asterisk, I looked at Daniel. Do you have a business plan? Asterisk, not. Exactly. Asterisk experience. I mean, I've mowed lawns before. Market analysis. Asterisk, Jenna jumped in. We haven't written one yet, but asterisk, so you want me? I interrupted. To invest $30,000 in an imaginary business with no plan, no research, and no track record. Silence. Daniel finally deflated. Okay, what would it take? What would you need from us? Proof? I said. Proof of what? Jenna asked on asterisk that you can support yourselves. I replied. Get jobs. Earn money. Manage it responsibly. Show me that I would be investing in adults, not dependents. Asterisk, Jenna looked horrified. That could take months. Asterisk, then it takes months. But we need help now, Daniel said. No, I corrected. You needed help 6 months ago. And instead of getting your lives together, you've coasted and expected me to catch you. Asterisk. Jenna's frustration burst out. You're being cruel. Asterisk, I'm being realistic. I stood and began gathering papers, and I've already made a decision about the property. Asterisk, Jenna held her breath. Daniel looked like he was on the verge of tears. I'm selling it, I said. Daniel slumped. So, what does that mean for us? Asterisk, it means, I replied, pulling up a rental listing on my phone, that you're moving. Asterisk, Jenna took the phone from my hand. This is an apartment. Asterisk, yes. A very nice 2-bedroom apartment. Move-in ready. The panic on their faces almost made me pity them. Almost, asterisk, you're paying the rent, I said. I'll cover the first month to give you a running start. After that, you're on your own. Asterisk, Daniel shook his head. Mom, we can't afford something like this. Asterisk. Then you need jobs, I said. Immediately. Asterisk, what if we can't find work fast enough? Jenna asked, asterisk. Then, I said, gathering the last of the documents and sliding them into a folder, you'll experience what many adults do, pressure. The kind of pressure that forces you to grow up. Their arguments dissolved into stunned silence. I've scheduled a viewing for Thursday morning, I added. We'll all go together. Asterisk, Jenna blinked. Why would you come? Asterisk, to make sure you don't mysteriously lose the appointment. Asterisk, I left the room before they could protest, hearing only a faint, defeated whisper behind me. Asterisk, what are we going to do, Daniel? But that wasn't the most shocking moment of the day. The truly life-altering news wouldn't arrive until we toured the apartment, and I received a different phone call. One that would shift everything again just when they thought it couldn't get any worse. Thursday morning arrived with a strange, heavy quiet in the house. Daniel and Jenna moved around stiffly, as if each step might trigger some new catastrophe. Neither of them could hide the anxiety hanging over them, the apartment viewing, the looming deadline, the financial disaster they were finally being forced to face. Asterisk, I drove them to the property myself. The apartment complex was modest but clean, with neatly trimmed hedges and a courtyard fountain that gurgled peacefully. The unit we toured was on the second floor, bright, freshly painted, with 2 bedrooms and a kitchen larger than the one they'd had in their last apartment. Asterisk. Daniel ran his fingers along the countertop. It's nicer than I expected. Asterisk, Jenna opened the pantry door. And the storage is good. Though her voice was flat, her eyes flickered. She wanted to find something wrong but couldn't. Asterisk, the property manager. A cheerful woman named Carla walked them through the details. Rent is $1,500 a month, security deposit is the same, and we require last month's rent up front. Total to move in is $4,500. Asterisk. Daniel blanched. Jenna's arms stiffened at her sides. Asterisk, I stepped forward and handed Carla a check. This covers their first month as discussed. Asterisk, Carla smiled. Wonderful. Then all we need is the remaining balance by noon tomorrow. Asterisk, Jenna sputtered. Tomorrow? You want $3,000 by tomorrow. That's correct, Carla said. Daniel looked at me like he hoped I would magically intervene. I didn't. Asterisk, on the drive home, their panic filled the car like fog. Asterisk, where are we supposed to get $3,000? Jenna snapped. We don't have anything to sell. We can ask someone for a loan, Daniel suggested weakly. Who? Jenna shot back. We've already borrowed from everyone who would talk to us. Asterisk, I let them argue for a moment before saying quietly, there is one option. Both fell silent instantly. What option? Daniel asked. Asterisk, you could both find immediate work. Some places pay start day wages, restaurants, construction companies, cleaning crews. If you take whatever job you can get, you might be able to gather enough for the deposit. Asterisk, Jenna rolled her eyes. That kind of work barely pays anything. Asterisk, it pays more than nothing, I replied, and you need something. Asterisk, Daniel rubbed his face. Mom, couldn't you just loan us the rest? Asterisk, with what collateral? I asked. What assurance do I have you won't repeat the last 6 months? Their silence answered that question. As we pulled into the driveway, my phone buzzed. A name flashed across the screen. Trevor. I stepped out of the car to take the call. Margaret, he said without preamble, we need to meet. Today, asterisk, what happened? Asterisk, there's been a development involving Jenna's previous employer. Asterisk, my stomach tightened. What kind of development? Asterisk, a criminal complaint. For embezzlement. Asterisk, I felt a cold shock run through me. I thought she was fired for taking office supplies. Asterisk, that was only the surface. The company's audit uncovered forged purchase orders and fabricated vendor invoices, amounting to nearly $50,000. Asterisk, I closed my eyes. Trevor, is she facing charges? Asterisk, almost certainly, he said. And there's more. The state is reviewing Daniel's unemployment claims. They have evidence he falsely reported job search activity. Benefit fraud? I pressed a hand to my temple. How bad is it? Asterisk for Daniel. Possibly fines. For Jenna. It could be a felony. Asterisk, I stared through the window at the two of them, still sitting in my car, oblivious to the avalanche about to hit them. Asterisk, should I tell them? I asked asterisk, you should distance yourself from their legal issues, Trevor said. But yes, they need to hear it. I hung up and walked to the car slowly, feeling the weight of what was coming. They both looked up, frightened by my expression. Asterisk, what's wrong? Daniel asked. Asterisk, I opened the door, steadying myself. The police contacted Trevor. Asterisk, Jenna's voice trembled. Police, about what? Asterisk, your past employment, I said. The company discovered financial discrepancies. Asterisk, she went pale. No, that can't be asterisk and Daniel, I added quietly. They're also investigating your unemployment claims. Asterisk, he froze. What? Asterisk, I sighed. It seems the problems you've been avoiding are no longer avoidable. Asterisk, Jenna's hands began to shake. Daniel stared at the dashboard, horrified. Asterisk, what do we do? He whispered. Asterisk, you decide, I said gently. Whether you want to face these consequences as independent adults in your own apartment, or as two fugitives hiding in my home, either answer was easy, but one thing was certain. The age of excuses had just ended. The next morning, I walked downstairs expecting to find the usual tension radiating from the kitchen. Instead, I found Daniel and Jenna sitting side by side at the table, dressed, alert, and strangely calm. It was the first time in months they looked like two adults preparing to make hard decisions. Asterisk, Daniel cleared his throat. Mom, we need to talk. That sentence alone was progress. I poured myself coffee and sat across from them. I'm listening. Asterisk, Jenna folded her hands tightly. We applied for 6 jobs last night. Fast food, stocking, cleaning, anything we could. 3 of them actually called back. We have interviews today. Asterisk, it stunned me more than I expected. That was fast. Asterisk, we're scared, Daniel admitted. But we also realized something last night. Everything that's happening. The investigation, the money problems, the apartment. We did this to ourselves. Asterisk, Jenna nodded slowly. We were blaming everyone but us. You, his job, my boss. Bad luck. But it wasn't bad luck. It was bad choices. Asterisk, for a brief moment, I saw the version of them I'd always hoped would emerge. Humbled, reflective, ready to take responsibility. Asterisk, Daniel took a breath. Mom, about the apartment. We can't afford it. Not right now. Not without lying or stealing. And we're done with shortcuts. Asterisk, so? I asked softly. Asterisk, we want to stay here, he said. But only for a month. 30 days. We'll work, save money, and then move somewhere we can actually sustain. Asterisk, Jenna straightened. Her voice steadier than I'd ever heard it. And if you'll let us, we'll pay rent. Real rent. Whatever you think is fair. We don't want to freeload anymore. Asterisk, I took a moment studying them. It no longer felt like manipulation. It felt like surrender, the good kind. Where pride finally breaks enough to let growth through the cracks. Asterisk, what changed your minds? I asked. Asterisk, Daniel glanced at Jenna. We talked all night. Really? Talked. We realized we've been looking at you as a safety net instead of a person, and we can't keep doing that. Asterisk, and the police investigation? I asked. Asterisk, Jenna swallowed. I'm meeting with a lawyer today. I'm not running from it. I'm ready to face whatever happens. That surprised me more than anything. I set my mug down. I have a counteroffer. They both tensed. You can stay for 90 days, I said. Not 1 day more. Once your paycheck starts, you'll contribute $500 a month to household expenses. You'll also attend financial literacy classes at the community college. Asterisk, Daniel nodded immediately. Absolutely. Asterisk, and you will both put 20% of your earnings into savings, I added. Non-negotiable. Asterisk, Jenna sighed but nodded. Okay. Double quotes asterisk, and when the 90 days end, I've finished, you move out. No excuses. No extensions. Asterisk, Daniel looked relieved. That's fair. But there is one more thing, I said. They held still, bracing themselves. Asterisk, you both need to earn my trust again. And trust isn't built by promises. It's built by consistency. Asterisk, Jenna's shoulders dropped slightly. We can do that. Asterisk, I looked at them for a long, quiet moment. These two flawed, frightened, stubborn young people who had pushed me to my limit but were finally ready to grow. Asterisk, I believe you. I said. The relief in their faces was almost heartbreaking. Over the next weeks, they kept their word in ways I never expected. Daniel took a stocking job at a hardware store, then worked his way up faster than I'd imagined he could. Jenna worked nights at a grocery store, then later found a bookkeeping position with a small business willing to give her a second chance despite her past. Asterisk, they saved. They paid rent. They followed rules. They treated me finally like the mother who raised them, not the bank they'd tried to live off. Asterisk, and exactly 90 days later, they moved out into a small but cozy apartment they could actually afford. 3 years passed. I had surgery one spring, and Daniel was the one who rushed me to the hospital and stayed by my bed until I woke. Jenna, of all people, brought homemade soup and cleaned my kitchen while I slept. Asterisk, people change when life finally forces them to. And sometimes the toughest boundaries become the greatest gifts. Asterisk, I signed my updated will a few months later. It didn't leave everything to them, but it left something. Enough to help, not enough to ruin. Asterisk, and as I placed the document in my safe, I realized something. Giving people everything breaks them. Giving them nothing abandons them. Asterisk. But giving them the chance to earn what matters. That's how you build a family again. They earned it. Every piece. Asterisk. And for the first time in a long while, I felt at peace.